All right, let's finally do this. This has been a couple of years in the making. I've been wanting to do it for a while.
Yeah, me too.
But yeah, so as you can see from the title, Josh and I are about to share our top 10 movies of 2016. And my personal written list is going to go up with this video concurrently, but just a caveat. I think this kind of goes with our personalities. I think his list is going to be a little more mainstream.
Yeah, there's a couple of indie features on there, but for the most part, yeah.
Because it's mostly indie features for me, therefore my list is better.
Well, that's his opinion. He's avant-garde, artsy-fartsy types.
Yeah, but regardless, okay, so reflecting on 2016, what did you think?
See, I know a lot of people weren't entirely impressed with 2016 overall, like as far as movies go, but as someone who, well, for one, as someone who was like really big into like the horror genre, I was actually very satisfied with this year. As far as like my personal favorite genres go.
That's fair. I can say the same thing somewhat. I mean, I thought a lot of the year, I wasn't super impressed with. The last few months of the year, I thought were very good. I'll say that for me personally, but
unfortunately, I didn't get to see as many indie features as I wanted to. Like, you won't see movies like The Lobster,
yeah,
or I assume Moonlight on there.
Yeah, I figured.
But for the most part, I enjoyed myself this year.
Okay,
I thought there were some real highlights.
Yeah, I'll say I personally don't think this was a banner year, but what I thought was good was excellent.
It was no 2007, because remember what we had in 2007?
Oh my god!
We had such
No Country for Old Men,
amazing films.
There Will Be Blood. I almost said True Blood there.
Dude, you're going the wrong way. I was thinking of movies like Spider-Man 3 and Shrek the Third.
Hey, Zodiac,
License to Wed with Robin Williams and Mandy Moore.
Okay, let's get this started. Okay, you want to start your number 10?
Yes.
Okay.
I have my list right here. Okay, number 10 for me is The Conjuring 2. Now,
when we saw it together?
We saw this at the Harkins Tipping Marketplace just down the street, and it was actually a double feature.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
They showed the first film from 2013, and then they showed the second film, almost back-to-back. And there really is a difference between these two movies as far as, like, the spectacle. Because the first one is a little bit more grounded. Like, there's definitely some fantastical elements, but the budget was obviously smaller, and it wasn't as grandiose. Where in the sequel, you have all of these set pieces that are very special effects driven and just crazy.
Oh.
But here's the thing.
No, like I remember like that one clown thing freaked you out.
It did. Well, here's the thing. James Wan, in my opinion, is one of the very few directors left who can do mainstream horror right. Like the studio horror right now generally kind of sucks, but he is a man of great talent. I've enjoyed almost all of his movies.
He's certainly talented.
Yeah. What he does best personally for me is the way that he crafts scares.
Yeah.
He has a setup and he has a payoff. There are no false jump scares in this movie. There's no, oh my god, it's only a cat, it's only a raccoon.
Yeah, that's the worst.
When he does jump scares, he does them effectively. And one of my favorite scenes in the movie is actually a slow build-up to a character called the Crooked Man. Which...
I'm just remembering how you reacted
oh
right
my
now.
god. This thing, I won't spoil too much, but it's something out of like a German expressionistic movie.
Yeah.
Or like a stop-motion Tim Burton feature.
I was thinking Nightmare Before Christmas when we saw it.
Just very well crafted, very well done.
Yeah.
James Wan makes some quality movies.
Yeah. And I mean, I'll maybe share a few of my thoughts just since I saw it as well. I mean, I'll keep them brief.
Yeah.
I mean, you mostly have the floor here, but yeah, I thought it was good, but really I think kind of the heart of this movie is like the relationship between Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. Mm-hmm. And I think the same applies to the first one as well. I think they have a very believable relationship.
They have an amazing chemistry. They're honestly, they're the new Ghostbusters for me. Like, not only do they have amazing chemistry, but something I wanted to point out with this movie real quick before we continue. In most studio horror movies like this, it will end with an out-of-nowhere jump scare. The last second or the last frame of the movie will have something just jumping out at the audience for absolutely no reason, either off-camera or whatever. Like, both Sinister movies did this, but in this movie, the ending, again, without spoiling too much, is very peaceful, very loving, and it's just a really nice feeling when you get to the ending of this movie.
Yeah, I can get on board with that. All right.
So let's move on.
All right, my number 10 is one that probably a lot of people didn't see. My number 10 is Don't Think Twice.
Oh man, you're going to have to remind me. Which one
that was the Keegan-Michael Key one where he's part of an improv group.
Okay.
And it's sort of like a day-to-day chronicle of their lives. It's where it's like a lot of them are trying to make it big on like on sort of a show that's obviously kind of meant to be a play on SNL. Like all of them are kind of trying to make it big on that one. And it's interesting because really they get into a very nice group dynamic with all the group members because it has Keegan-Michael Key, Jillian Jacobs from Community, the director Mike Birbiglia, and a few other, they're actors I can't name, but a few other people, and it's interesting because like some of them are trying to kind of land big gigs and make it big. Others kind of like the security of their improv group more, while knowing that something like this is probably not a permanent lifestyle for them. But really, the way they interact, they just really feel like a very nice family, I feel like.
How is the comedy in this more subdued than a lot of Key and Peele sketches?
Much more, so it's sort of like sort of the believable kind of comedy you see.
Okay.
Almost more grounded comedy you see in a lot of indie films.
Realistic comedy.
Yeah, and it's a film without like a huge structure to it. It's sort of a day-to-day life kind of movie. But I like that about it because I feel like I got to know these characters. I thought all of them were very believable. I thought the acting was great from Keegan-Michael Key. I thought Jillian Jacobs was the standout myself. But I just thought it was a nice, quiet, subdued, but intelligent movie.
So it ultimately shows that Peele can branch out and make other kinds of movies. Yeah.
I mean, it's still fundamentally a comedy, but he's definitely more subdued in this one. And
by the way, I can't wait to check out that new Jordan Peele horror movie that's coming out.
Oh, that's right. That'll be very interesting.
Called Get Out. It's basically like the Stepford Wives, but it's a black man visiting a white community, and just something seems off about all the white people.
Oh. Okay, so it's basically Key and Peele if they made a horror movie out of it.
Very, very excited about that one.
That one will be fun. I'm looking forward to that too. Okay, what's your number 9?
Number 9 for me is Rogue One, A Star Wars Story.
Woo! That one's on my honorable mentions. Fun fact.
Oh man, I should have done some honorable mentions.
Yeah.
But here's what I will say about Rogue One.
Yeah.
When I first left the movie theater, I was amazed by it.
Yeah.
And at least the second half. And that feeling is still with me. It did stick around because in certain movies like this, you will feel really good after leaving the theater. You know you had a good time. You were astonished by some of the spectacle. But then after a while, it kind of dies down a bit. The feeling that I had walking out of this movie is still with me.
Yeah.
The second half was amazingly well constructed.
Oh, I fully agree. Yeah.
And I'm not a fanboy. There were definitely some problems, notably in the first half.
I thought it was more like the first 10 minutes where like the scene-to-scene transitions, it feels like it kind of jumps all over the place.
It was the Suicide Squad effect, where the editing was kind of wonky.
I mean, it's better than that, but...
By the way, I like Suicide Squad, but...
Which makes your opinions invalid here.
I'm gonna go commit suicide now.
I'm kidding. I didn't actually see Suicide Squad. I still haven't, but...
Anyway.
I'm kidding.
Other problems that I did have with Rogue One, Felicity Jones's character I didn't think was very well fleshed out. Diego Luna's character, it took me a little while to fully get him, like what he was going for.
I liked his character more on the second viewing.
Really? See, I have not watched it a second time yet.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't watched it a second
Wow,
time.
knowing you, I'm genuinely surprised.
I'm surprised too, but no, the first time that I saw it, I had a great time. You can't beat the last half hour or so of this movie.
Oh my god, that final Vader scene.
It's honestly like Saving Private Ryan invades Star Wars. It's amazing.
Yeah, that's what I really liked about it. I mean, I don't think it's a perfect movie, but if nothing else, I think it's interesting to see Star Wars kind of branching out into different genres.
Mm-hmm.
And just, unlike really any other Star Wars movie, just kind of show the nitty-gritty side of war. I thought that was interesting for them to do.
The last thing I will say about Rogue One, and then we can continue with your list.
Yeah.
They did throw in a few Easter eggs that I really wasn't anticipating.
Yeah?
But it did make me appreciate the movie more, just as a fan.
Oh, like what?
Well, okay.
I mean, spoiler-free, but...
Yeah, spoiler-free. When we get to Darth Vader's first scene, the environment that he's in is something from a previous movie that I really wasn't expecting. I thought they were going to ignore it entirely.
I wasn't either.
It was...
I wasn't expecting it either, to be honest.
The continuity was really good as far as linking it to the other 6 movies, minus The Force Awakens.
Yeah, it's... yeah. But, also, can I say Darth Vader was more badass in 10 minutes of this movie than in the 3 prequels combined?
Oh, I don't know, I mean... I would say he was at his most badass in Attack of the Clones when he was... I'm not even going to continue with that, because they didn't have any badass moments in Attack of the Clones.
I slaughtered them like animals!
Alright,
but, okay, my number 9 is The Handmaiden.
The Handmaiden.
Yeah, it was a foreign film. It was the new Park Chan-wook movie that came out this year.
Now, is he the director who made like The Host and Snowpiercer, or is this a different?
No, he did Old Boy.
Old Boy. Okay.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
So this was one of the big foreign films to come out this year. This is essentially like I'm trying to remember like the specifics of the plot of it, but okay, so basically this con man in I think it's Korea.
Mm-hmm.
He's essentially pursuing like a wealthy heiress,
Okay.
a wealthy young Korean woman, and posing as a nobleman so he can marry her and steal her fortune, and then I think his plan is to put her off into a mental institution somewhere so he can keep the money, and he has the help of a younger female pickpocket who becomes this heiress's handmaiden, hence the title, but this pickpocket becomes increasingly conflicted about what she's doing, because in a sense she's starting to develop romantic feelings, and yes, that leads to what you think it does.
What I think it does. Oh no! Does he go the old boy route again, or is it something different?
Oh, it's something different.
Okay, thank God, because if you've seen Old Boy, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
But the interesting thing about this movie is it's very much structured into 3 acts. I mean, all movies kind of are inherently, but this one deliberately, because each chapter of this movie shows it takes the point of view of like a different. One of the 3 main characters is like one of the specific focuses of it. So like the first third is focused on the pickpocket. The second kind of shows many of the events from the first third take place from the perspective of the heiress, so you get a whole new kind of view on things. And without going too much into spoilers, it's like both of them are kind of conning one another. The interesting thing about this movie is it's kind of one where everyone is conning everybody, and so that made it very unpredictable. And then the last third is from the con man's perspective, which takes place after the first 2 thirds. So
none of the characters in this movie are really straight shooters.
Oh no. But I mean, it's intelligent. It's an erotic thriller, but it's also very intelligent. It's weirdly feminist. I'll say that. While at the same time being an erotic thriller, so that's kind of an interesting dichotomy there. But
Yeah, from what you've been describing, it sounds like you would have some of those elements, definitely.
Yeah, and as you'd expect from Park Chan-wook, the cinematography is drop dead gorgeous.
Mm-hmm.
The period detail's great, and it's surprisingly accessible.
Yeah, because I know plenty of people who absolutely refuse to watch foreign films because it's not accessible enough for them.
Yeah, Handmaiden is surprisingly accessible.
So you were saying that it should have been a bigger hit than it was?
I mean, I understand it not really being a big hit, but I'm just saying I think it's more accessible than people will realize.
Now, did you say that at its core it is still a romance?
Yeah.
So are you saying that you would rather see this movie again than 4 Nicholas Sparks movies?
Yes, Josh, I am. Okay. So that's about all I have to say about The Handmaiden. What's your number 8?
Number 8 for me, is Arrival.
Ooh, I'll keep my thoughts on that one quiet, but I will definitely be getting to that one later.
I'll
let you take the floor.
The director of this movie, Denis Villeneuve, I believe is how you say his name. He is not someone that I'm overly familiar with. I've seen 2 of his movies. I've seen this and Sicario.
Mm-hmm.
He is an incredibly visceral director. He has an incredible visual style, and I was utterly impressed with how he composed the shots in this movie.
Yeah.
He is
a
masterwork, and something that I really appreciate about this movie in particular is that it's more about thoughts and ideas than it is spectacle.
Very much so.
It's very intellectual, and for most viewers, it would probably be a little bit too slow. A little bit too slow moving, which I can understand.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. If you do have the patience for it, this movie does offer some rich rewards.
Oh, God, yeah.
And the performances are terrific. Amy Adams, there are some things revolving around her character that I did not expect, and going into the 3rd act.
She kills it.
She kills it.
She kills it.
She doesn't die in the movie. She kills it.
Yeah.
And then it does contain my favorite shot of the year.
Oh, is it the one I'm thinking of?
It is, because for the first 10 or 15 minutes or so of this movie, they don't show the UFOs at all.
No.
I mean, they leave it up to your imagination. Mm-hmm. The first time they show a UFO in this movie, it's this grand, wide overview of the landscape where you have this military helicopter approaching the UFO, and you see the mist coming down from the mountains kind of pouring onto the landscape, and the UFO is kind of tilted on its side, almost as if it's parked incorrectly. It's an amazing shot.
Yeah,
it's just.
It's a really beautiful shot.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I'll be getting to my thoughts on it later.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. Do you have anything else you want to say about it?
Yes. One more thing that I was thinking of.
Mm-hmm.
I compared this movie a little bit to another recent science fiction movie, which is Under the Skin. Granted,
really?
Well, they don't have any similar plot lines or ideas, but both movies kind of gave me the same feeling. They were both very moody, very atmospheric. Like I said earlier, probably too slow for most viewers, but if you really give yourselves to these movies, I think you'll find a very rich experience.
I think so too. All right. My number 8 is a mainstream movie.
Oh my god! Surprise, surprise.
Yeah, very much. Zootopia.
I don't know, man. I'm surprised you didn't have Angry Birds on here.
I didn't see Angry Birds, Josh.
I saw Angry Birds.
I was smart.
Oh wait, no, I was just playing Angry Birds on my phone before we started this. Anyway.
Yeah, Zootopia. For the record, this is my favorite animated film of the year.
Mm-hmm.
It's actually been a pretty good year for animated movies, all things considered, because I thought Kubo was very terrific. Moana was really good. Even Finding Dory I quite liked, actually.
There was also I think it was Japanese movie called The Red Turtle.
Oh, we don't get that until February. I'm excited to see that too. But Zootopia is definitely my favorite animated film of the year, and it's also probably my favorite film Disney has made since Lilo and Stitch.
Really?
Yeah, that far back.
14 years.
Yeah, dude, I freaking love Zootopia. it's one of those movies where I'm like, a lot of people were skeptical about the trailers, but just because a lot of recent Disney movies like Frozen and stuff like that haven't had great trailers, I was always remaining hopeful about Zootopia. And I mean, the movie was funny and beautifully animated like I was expecting, but what I was not expecting was for this film to be so timely. Just
very relevant.
Oh my god. Like, that really caught me off guard when I watched it. It's like, it goes like full on political allegory. And granted, it's like, I've seen a couple people online say that maybe you could poke some holes in kind of the allegory, but really and maybe you could, but I think the more important thing is that this is a story about tolerance.
Right.
And I think it absolutely works on that level. It's like the same thing as like Babe, where like with the allegory level of it, you can poke holes in it if you wanted to, but it works as a story of tolerance in general. And again, like I said, this movie's beautifully animated.
Yeah.
The voice acting is great. Jennifer Goodwin, I've never seen her in anything, but she floored me with this. Jason Bateman is probably one of my favorite roles he's ever done, to be honest.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And
he's terrific.
Their chemistry is great. And I keep forgetting, the fact that it's a rabbit and a fox makes me think this is an apology for Song of the South.
Even though this movie also deals with racism.
That's what I'm saying.
But okay, I'll have some more things to say about this movie later.
Oh yeah,
but
I think it landed higher on yours.
But I will say this: you were saying earlier about how it challenges people to at least try to solve the world's problems.
Yeah,
or something to that effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I actually did read some review blurbs where the critics didn't like this movie because apparently it didn't solve any of the world's problems.
I'm like,
how can you...
because, well, the thing is, we haven't solved these things.
How can you expect a movie like this to solve the world's problems if we haven't even solved these problems yet?
Yeah.
It's ridiculous, and it's a completely unreasonable thing to say.
And really, what I like about this movie is I think it offers some ideas, but I don't think it offers any clear solution.
Right.
And I very much admire that about it. And also, this movie is really goddamn funny. Just
it is.
The sloths gag gets me every time.
Mm-hmm. Funniest scene of the year for me still.
Yeah.
But
what is your number 7 pick? Josh.
She's really good at that. Okay, my number 7 pick. Oh, here's another movie that we saw together in the theater.
Which one?
Is The Witch.
Oh!
Yeah!
I confess this one came close to landing on my top 10. I rewatched it, and I finally rewatched it.
I have some things to say about The Witch.
Oh,
Being the horror guy, here's where I will begin with this.
Yeah.
We saw this at the Harkins Tempe Marketplace theater down the street.
Yeah.
We saw it, I believe it was opening night. And
yeah, I think it was.
For one, it really seemed to me like we were the only two becoming really invested in this movie.
Oh, like, the audience hated it, like they were talking to one another, like they were cracking jokes. Both of us got really pissed off, honestly.
It's one of those things. Look, I'm not going to make like a huge rant about this because that's not what this video is.
That's for another video.
But just because you aren't enjoying a movie, it does not mean the people around you are feeling the same way.
No!
So don't crack jokes.
No.
Don't be like snickering like constantly during the movie.
Yeah.
Because that's what happened when we saw this movie. But
it was a miracle I ended up liking it as much as I did with that audience we had.
That's how powerful it is. It's definitely one of those divisive movies. Like, mainstream audiences, I can imagine, probably will not like this movie. And in fact, I know for a fact that many of them don't like this movie because...
We experienced it
because what this movie does is... Yeah, it is avant-garde. It is artistic.
Yeah.
But what it does so incredibly well is that it is so eerie.
No, this movie got under my skin, genuinely.
It is so uncomfortable, but in the best sense.
Yeah.
There are almost no jump scares in this movie.
Well, there's one near the end, but I think they earned that one.
There's one near the end, and it is so well earned. And it did get me. But this movie is very much, I compared it to Stanley Kubrick's The Shining. And
Ooh, I see it, yeah.
It lures you in, and it basically twists your soul apart and makes you feel so just on the edge of your seat and just uncomfortable.
It's a very claustrophobic film.
Very psychological. I thought all the performances in this movie were great.
Dude, Anya Taylor-Joy gives a breakout performance if I've ever seen it.
Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy as the teenage daughter, Thomason, is great.
Yeah.
Something all the actors did very well was speaking the dialect.
Oh my god, I can't imagine how difficult that must have been to do.
It must have been incredibly difficult, especially for like some of the young children in this movie, like the child actors.
Yeah.
But they all do a very good job with this dialogue.
Yeah.
And this is definitely my favorite horror film of the year.
Yeah.
And Robert Eggers, the man who wrote and directed this, I'm very excited to see what he'll be doing next with his career, because this movie is crafted like it was made by someone who has been doing this for decades.
Dude, the fact that this was his debut still floors me.
Mm-hmm. We've gotten some very good indie horror over the past few years.
Oh, yeah.
2014 was The Babadook, 2015 was It Follows, and 2016 was The Witch.
Yeah. The Witch was great, I'm pretty much everything you said,
Much better than Blair Witch.
Oh god, yeah.
That's a different topic.
But, okay. Let's see, my number 7. Did you ever see this one? My number 7 was Sing Street.
No, I have not seen Sing Street.
Dude, I think you would really like Sing Street.
See, I'm coming off as like some sort of schlub because I haven't seen like any of these masterful indie films.
No, don't worry. It's just, you like one thing, I like the other thing.
Right.
I think that's fine. But
anyway,
Sing Street. For those of you who don't know, is a film directed by John Carney, aka the genius behind Once.
Love Once. Once is one of my favorite movie musicals of all time.
So this is another very, very small film. It's, as to be expected from John Carney, takes place in Ireland. But, okay, so it basically...
Whoa!
Yeah.
No way!
You never would have guessed, right?
That's like saying the M. Night Shyamalan movie doesn't take place in Pennsylvania.
Bravo. But, okay, so it focuses on basically a bunch of boarding school kids in Ireland, including one in particular. I mean, the thing is, this movie is... The interesting thing about this movie is it's a very kind of typical setup. Because it's basically... He's trying to impress this girl that he has a crush on. And the way he does this, he tells her he's in a band when he's not. And so with his friends, he creates his own band. And honestly, I know that's a very typical setup, and I'll avoid getting into spoilers, but this movie is... You could say this movie's cliched, but I think this is an example where it can show sometimes cliches aren't necessarily bad if you do them right.
Right.
Like, if you really know what makes them work. The Rocky film Creed, I thought, was another great example of that recently.
I would also say The Fighter with Christian Bale, Mark Wahlberg.
I would say that too. But Sing Street, despite having kind of a cliche setup, it knows its characters really well. It loves its characters. It's a very lighthearted film, but there's also kind of a little bit of a sad undercurrent to it because, again, as to kind of be expected from John Carney, but because it's... What it gets into is because at this boarding school, these kids kind of lead this kind of oppressive lifestyle. Like, they don't feel like they really have any freedom in what they're doing. And I think creating this band gives them the opportunity to do that. And then it gets into some other stuff, like some genuine difficulties the main kid... I think it's like his parents are having, like, marital problems or something like that. And that's actually kind of the way he finally starts to connect with a girl, is because she sort of has that similar experience. But so it's a very kind of lighthearted, joyful movie, but it was a little more touching than I was expecting as well, because and not in a schmaltzy way, because I think it understands these characters so well that I feel like with these moments it genuinely earns like the joyfulness, because I feel like it kind of contrasts the joyfulness with just kind of the sadder realities of life, and I feel like that's what makes it work so well.
Now, my question
Yeah.
is this movie a full-blown musical? Like, Once was pretty much a musical from the get-go, but is this like that?
I saw this several months ago, but from what I remember, not really.
Okay.
I mean, probably not even to the same extent of Once, but yeah. I mean, there's like a couple music videos like they show. There's a couple full songs that they show, and one in particular that is not going to get nominated for Best Original Song, but it freaking should. It's called "Drive It Like You Stole It," and it's wonderful. It's yeah. So
Brian's on a mission now.
so it's not really a full blown musical, but there's it's sort of a music film though.
Did you like it more than Once?
I couldn't tell you. I'll need to rewatch Once.
Fair enough.
Yeah,
Fair enough.
but yeah, Sing Street is wonderful. One of the most underrated ones of this year. Yeah, I loved it. What's your number 6?
Number 6 for me is the directorial comeback of Mr. Braveheart himself, Mel Gibson, Hacksaw Ridge.
I want to let you know. I don't think I've told you. I finally saw it.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about it.
Yeah.
Okay, Hacksaw Ridge. I am a sucker for World War II movies, especially if they're as intense as this one.
Oh my god, this thing was brutal.
This movie has single-handedly the goriest battle scenes I have ever witnessed.
Dude, it got kind of outrageous at points.
It was almost like watching an exploitation movie. But you know what? Here's the thing, is that if you're going to show the horrific realities of war, then I think you should be upfront and honest about it, which is exactly what this movie does.
Yeah. That's fair. I mean, I'll mostly let you take the floor. I'll just say, I don't think I liked it quite as much as you did, but I thought it was pretty good. Pretty solid World War II film. It certainly engaged me. Yeah, that's about all I have to say about it.
I will say I did have some problems with like the first half of this movie.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I thought it wasn't really until the second half that it started kind of grabbing me.
Andrew Garfield, his character, for the first 20 or so minutes of this movie, basically up until he enlists in the army, is a doofus. And you know who he reminded me of? He reminded me of Ben Stiller's Simple Jack character from Tropic Thunder. I mean, not that he was like mentally challenged or anything, but just like his demeanor, like just when he's hitting on Teresa Palmer, he's like, "Oh, you make me happy." just sort of the shucks, good old. Oh shucks, like
sort of the good old boy kind of.
And he's a farm boy, just like Simple Jack. No. Okay. No. Okay. Here's the thing. Yes, those early scenes, particularly when he's dating Teresa Palmer, were a little bit dorky and lovey-dovey for my taste, but you know what? Overall, he was still a likable character because he was sincere.
Yeah.
He was a bit naive to start out with, but that was his arc throughout the movie, is that he does learn that yeah, some things in life are not going to go his way. You know, there are going to be roadblocks, and not everyone is going to respect his religious beliefs.
Yeah.
And I'm not going to get too into it, but as someone who does hold on to his, like, religious beliefs, I did appreciate the message of this movie, which is, no matter what, you should just, as a person, just, you know, if you are so strongly committed to something, don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You're not hurting anyone.
Right.
This character, Andrew Garfield's character, doesn't hurt anyone in this movie, and yet he is constantly ridiculed for having these strong beliefs. Yeah,
I think that's a valid message anywhere, because I mean, I haven't been to church in years, so I'm kind of at the point where I don't really consider myself religious anymore. But but I full-heartedly agree with that sentiment that you just expressed. As long as it's not hurting anyone, fine by me.
A great message, and I don't want to go on for too long because I want to get to your choice. But I do have to say one minor spoiler in this movie. It's not that big of a deal. It's not gonna ruin like the ending or anything. When Andrew Garfield and the rest of the troops get to the top of the ridge and they see all of these like dead bodies around them, the trigger, the thing that begins this intense battle scene was straight out of like an Evil Dead movie.
I was thinking the exact same thing. It was like full-blown horror.
It begins with a jump scare.
Yeah,
but
it does.
An effective one.
Yeah, I mean, say what you will about Mel Gibson, but he knows how to stage battle scenes really well.
He is a filmmaker. I don't know him personally. I know that he's made some mistakes in the past, but he makes some damn good movies.
Yeah. All right. My number 6. Another one you haven't seen. Shocker.
Shocking.
My number 6 is The Lobster.
Oh, I want to see that.
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like this is a film that not everyone's going to like, and I think that's completely fine. For the most part, I get that because this is a film that it's very deliberately distancing.
I did hear it's like very dry with its humor.
Oh, incredibly! It's a very distanced film. It doesn't give much room for you to become emotionally involved with it. But for the most part, I think that's kind of the point of it because, I mean, this is basically an absurdist film where this man played by Colin Farrell checks into this hotel or something like that, and he's given 30 days to find someone that he can fall in love with or he'll be turned into an animal of his choosing. And as per the title, he chooses a lobster. And so this is a very strange movie, and I feel like a lot of this is going to go over people's heads, but the dimension I took from it is that this is kind of a satire at heart.
Okay.
Because I think what it's really making fun of is sort of relationship-obsessed culture. How much pressure is put on people to be in a relationship.
Yeah.
I feel like this film is that kind of taken to its extreme because... And there's some interesting artistic choices they make in that because, like, at this hotel, none of the characters are given any specific names, even.
Right.
I mean, John C. Reilly is in it, and he's, like, I think his title is, like, Guy with a Lisp, because his character has a lisp. But the thing is, in the context of this world, and in the movie, that's his defining trait, and so he needs to find someone compatible with that trait. So, in a sense... Yeah, that is kind of satirizing just two individual traits that make people fall in love. And while not really understanding there should be much more to love than just one thing someone has in common with one another. And so this is a pretty scathing film, honestly. But honestly, this is sort of a science fiction film because it kind of creates its own world a little bit. I mean, it doesn't explain how a bunch of this stuff works, like why people get turned into animals, and I thought that was clever, but like outside of this hotel, there's like this whole group of people who are like rebelling against, that's almost like this group of freedom fighters that are like opposed to these people, and so just some of the world building I actually found very fascinating.
Now, you were saying earlier that it kind of comments on our society's obsession with relationships.
Yeah, it very much does.
Not just getting into a relationship, but when you do get into a relationship, you're pressured to be very open about it, like to everyone. There's no room for privacy.
Oh, God, yeah.
Does this movie kind of touch on that? As far as like invasion of privacy, or not really?
Not really.
Not really, okay.
But yeah, it's a pretty scathing film, and like I said, it's not going to be for everyone. I think that's fine, but I loved it.
Is it Colin Farrell's best performance?
It's one of them.
It can't be better than Daredevil.
I didn't see Daredevil.
He is a maniac in Daredevil, and I love him for it. I want a bloody costume. Move on.
Is it one of those performances that's like very kind of over the top but enjoyable?
Over the top doesn't even begin to describe Colin Farrell as Bullseye
Oh.
in Daredevil.
That kind of gets me intrigued, to be honest, because I'm a sucker for a great over the top performance.
It's up there for sure.
Yeah. Okay.
Moving on.
Yeah. What's your number 5?
Getting into the top 5. Okay, number 5 for me is Kubo and the Two Strings.
Ooh, nice.
Another a tremendous animated film from this year.
Yeah.
Here's what I have to say about Kubo and the Two Strings. I'm becoming a big fan of anime, like Japanese animation in general.
Yeah.
My fiance has been into anime pretty much her whole life.
Yeah.
There are certain things that American animation does not do properly when it comes to imitating anime. Like, I've seen it before. Like, a studio will attempt to make kind of maybe a Studio Ghibli clone, where, they try to make something along those lines. We both saw this movie, and we both agreed that this one came pretty damn close, because for one,
it felt very Studio Ghibli, honestly.
It felt very Studio Ghibli, and not just that, but the themes that it tackles. Like, it does not pander to kids in the slightest.
And that's what I really loved about it, to be honest, is because this is a film that not everything is left cleanly resolved at the end of this movie.
Right, bad things do happen in this movie.
Yeah.
And they're very honest about it, but
yeah,
that's what's so great, is that they're showing kids, like, the truth, essentially.
And, yeah, I think that's very admirable.
Very admirable, and some of the side characters in this movie, like Matthew McConaughey as the Beetle, Charlize Theron as the Grumpy Monkey, they were all very amusing.
Yeah.
If I had any nitpicks about this movie, I would say that I guess the whole time I was watching, like, Matthew McConaughey and Charlize Theron's characters, I could tell that these were celebrities.
Yeah.
Voicing animated characters.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, the whole time I could tell that they were, like, at a booth, sipping on some Starbucks, reading lines from a script. It did come across that way, but the story and the ideas really shone through.
And I'm also going to say, I think it has some of the most, really the animation for this movie, even aside from everything else you mentioned, the animation alone made this movie for me.
Leica Animation has done some very stellar work the past few years.
Dude, I think this is their best work, to be honest.
I would say so too. I liked it more than Coraline. I liked it more than Paranorman. I haven't seen the Box Trolls.
Yeah. I haven't seen Paranorman. I've seen Box Trolls.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I've seen Coraline, and this is my favorite of them.
Mm-hmm.
But, yeah.
One more thing I will say about this movie is that it has my favorite George Takei cameo of the entire year. Literally, he just appears as, like, this random citizen in a crowd. And of course, they had to plug in his catchphrase. He does the, "Oh my."
No, like, when that happened, I think I whispered to you, like, wait, was that George Takei?
Mm-hmm. The man himself.
Yeah.
But beautiful movie.
Very, very good movie. Okay. My number 5. I actually don't know if you saw this one or not.
Again?
My number 5 is Hell or High Water.
I didn't see this one.
Ooh, dude, you got to. It's, oh my God.
I'm sinking into my chair.
Hell or High Water is basically, I'm trying to find the right way to describe it. It's a modern Western in the best possible sense.
I read that it's kind of like a Bonnie and Clyde, or like a Butch Cassidy in the Sundance.
Yeah, it's very much a Bonnie and Clyde kind of thing, because this movie is very much kind of a social commentary.
On what?
Well, just sort of economic equality, which Bonnie and Clyde was also kind of getting into, and the way that they're seeking out economic prosperity through illegal means kind of led many to admire them because of that. And this movie kind of does the same thing, where, like, these guys' actions are kind of admired in the eyes of their local community. Because essentially the plot of this movie is Chris Pine and Ben Foster are two brothers who, due to, like, some crap with this local bank, their mother's home is about to be foreclosed on.
Okay.
And so what they do is they start robbing a series of these banks. while hiding their identities, and then taking all this money, gambling it somewhere, so that they can cover their tracks, and then depositing a check for all this newly covered money to the bank. So they're paying the banks with their own money so they can save their family's home. So in a sense, kind of what they're doing is sort of vigilantism, in that they're literally giving the bank a taste of their own money, essentially.
So kind of like a couple of Robin Hoods?
Very much so, yes. And meanwhile, Jeff Bridges is the local lawman who's pursuing them, and there kind of gets into some similarities with... He's very similar to Tommy Lee Jones's character in No Country for Old Men, in that he's about to retire. He wants to... he's trying to hold on to until the glory days, or what he considers the glory days, and while going on one last mission to catch these guys. And really, this movie does a great job with world building, I think, because it establishes mood very quickly, because it opens with this tracking shot as they rob their first bank. It's panning across the walls of a bank, and there's graffiti written on the side "Where's my bailout?" And so it's all kind of visual storytelling, just kind of establishing the world they live in, just this kind of desolate, kind of abandoned world.
So it's very good at telling its story visually?
Oh, very good. And then, and just the social allegory it's kept telling, I thought was very engaging. It's interesting because, we'll try not to get too much into politics here, but in the aftermath of the election, I've seen a lot of people say that people need to do a better job of empathizing with white rural people. Really, this is a film that kind of explores their plight. What drive, or at least with these characters, I shouldn't generalize everyone, but these characters, what drives them to this desperation. And just the cinematography is great, the acting is phenomenal. Chris Pine's never been better. Jeff Bridges hasn't been this good since True Grit, and Ben Foster is amazing. Yeah. Hell or High Water. It's wonderful.
Well, I do enjoy myself a good heist movie.
Oh, then hopefully you'll like this one.
Yeah, I'll check it out.
Yeah, I think it's on DVD now. But what's your number 4?
Number 4 for me is yet another animated movie. It's Moana.
Ooh, nice.
It was very hard choosing between this and Moana for the number 4 spot.
Between Moana and Moana?
Did I say that?
Yes.
Oh my god. No, it was very hard choosing between this and Kubo for the number 4 spot.
Yeah.
Because, in a way, they are a little bit similar. They both involve these individuals who go on this journey to basically save the society that they're brought up in, and along the way they encounter all these fantastical characters, and
both are kind of hero's journey stories.
Both are hero's journey stories, but Moana, for one, has some very fun musical numbers.
Oh yes.
Courtesy of Mark Mancina and Lin-Manuel Miranda.
Who can save the world, by the way.
Yeah, who can save the world. Yeah, his music in this movie is automatically catchy.
Oh my god, yeah.
As soon as I left the theater, I was humming at least 3 of the songs from this movie.
May I ask which ones?
You Know the Way, How Far I'll Go, and particularly You're Welcome, sung by Dwayne Johnson himself. Who, by the way, he actually does have a good singing voice in this.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine.
Perfectly fine. And here's another thing that I really appreciate about Moana.
Yeah.
I will go into spoiler territory for just a little bit. So near the beginning of this movie, Moana, as a young child, wants to venture out onto the ocean. She wants to explore the seas, basically. Yeah. But her father forbids her to do it. He wants her to stay on the island. He wants her to become the next chief. And you would imagine, for the rest of the movie, she's going to be rebellious. She's going to go against her father's wishes. She's going to learn by the end of this movie, oh, you know what? My people are much more important than my own wishes. I'm going to actually be a leader. No! In the first few minutes of this movie, She says, to hell with all of that, yes. I'm going to own up to my responsibilities. I'm going to lead my people.
She knows how important her family is.
She knows how important her family and her villagers are, and it was so refreshing.
Yeah.
And immediately, she became like probably one of my favorite Disney characters for sure.
Oh, she's up there for me too. At least one of my favorite Disney princesses now.
Mm-hmm. Although don't forget, she's not a princess.
Hey, you need an animal sidekick.
And to wear a dress.
And a princess.
Problems that I have with this movie, for one, one of the resolutions in the third act I thought was a bit rushed.
Mm-hmm.
Maui has kind of a Han Solo moment where, he leaves Moana, but then he comes back to help her at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere.
It's a little rushed.
It's a bit rushed. That's a minor nitpick. Other problems that I had with it. When I first saw this movie, I didn't really care for Jermaine Clement's character.
Tamatoa, I think his name is.
The giant crab with all this glam on his back.
Shiny!
It just felt so contradictory to the rest of the movie, but the more I think about it, the more I do like that sequence.
I like it if just because of the fact that it's a really good David Bowie parody.
Oh yeah.
It's like...
It's grown on me, for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And also I just think Jermaine Clements just has an inherently funny voice, but that's just me. But
I think the reason that scene was so off-putting to me initially was because it felt like the villain's big moment in the movie.
yeah.
And this crab only shows up for one scene.
Yeah.
It's pretty much done for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, I can agree with that somewhat. But, yeah,
But upon reviewing it, rewatching it, yeah, I appreciated it, like, a bit more.
Mm-hmm.
Not the best animated movie of the year. I have one more to discuss.
Oh, and I think I know what it is.
But, yeah, very, very good. Disney has been on a roll lately.
Oh, God, yeah.
Anyway.
Okay. My number 4, you're going to disagree with.
Oh, no.
I mean, you messaged me. This wasn't a movie you...
Oh, okay. I know what you're going to say.
My number 4 is Manchester by the Sea.
Okay.
But I'll mostly take the...
Okay.
I mean, you can interject if you want, but...
No, go ahead.
Dude.
Say what you need to say.
Was it that this movie was just so... I'm not asking to be judgmental. I'm genuinely curious because, honestly, my dad kind of had the same reaction you did.
There was something about this movie that just never really came to life for me. I don't know if it's because it went against certain storytelling conventions or that it was much more subtle and not as extravagant as other dramas that I've seen recently. I don't know.
But I mean, my dad said it kind of left him a bit cold emotionally.
It definitely left me cold emotionally too.
But so yeah, I think you and my dad are kind of in the same boat.
It's not that I don't appreciate subtle dramas. I mean,
yeah, no.
Boyhood was extremely subtle. It was more about this one character's journey through life, but
yeah,
just something about it. It just rubbed me the wrong way.
That's fair.
Anyway,
and I'm here to tell you why you're wrong.
Okay.
I'm
kidding. I'm here to walk away.
I'm kidding. Okay. This movie honestly hit me very hard emotionally because I don't know if part of it for me is that honestly I had kind of a hard year in 2016, particularly towards the end. I mean we don't have to get into like a bunch of that stuff too much, but I've kind of been. I don't want to say I've been dealing with depression because I don't think I have, but I've been down a lot of the time recently. And maybe because it was in that mindset that this movie genuinely felt like a gut punch to me. But what I like about this movie is that it's a film that's, I think it has kind of a typical setup. Sort of has like an indie film kind of setup where like just kind of a depressed person kind of put in a position like that puts him out of his comfort zone. In this, it's that he has to raise his nephew. And but what I like about this film is that it subverts a lot of those conventions because basically the way a lot of these films work is that it's that through like this task that puts this depressed person out of his comfort zone, he kind of learns to enjoy life again and becomes happy by the end of it. And I'm not saying there's anything inherently wrong with that approach. Many films that have that approach I love. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying it is what it is. It's an approach. But what I like about Manchester by the Sea is that it's a film that kind of calls bullshit on that. Because in a sense, this is a film that's like, it's never that easy to recover after a tragedy. And it's kind of a film that's like, some people don't recover from tragedies in their lives. And that's perfectly understandable because grief is just so difficult sometimes.
I will say something.
Yeah.
I didn't hate this movie. Overall,
I never thought you did.
I just didn't think it was tremendous. I didn't think it was a masterpiece.
Yeah.
But here's what I did appreciate about it.
Yeah.
Is that no matter what people say, sometimes you just can't get over your sad feelings about something. It just doesn't happen that easily.
And that's what I loved about it.
It doesn't mean you're a weak person.
No.
It doesn't mean you're inferior to everyone else. It just means that just, you know.
With what happens to Casey Affleck's character in this movie, I won't say what it is. But with what happens, I can't really blame him.
Right.
It's like, I myself kind of like that it wasn't a full story. It was almost sort of a day-to-day kind of life kind of movie. I personally like that. That's a personal taste, I'll admit. Really, the acting was phenomenal in this movie.
I'll give it that. Yeah, it was.
Casey Affleck, I think, gives the performance of the year. Michelle Williams, I think if she had one more scene in this movie, she'd win the Oscar.
Yeah, she was only on screen for like
10
minutes or so.
Yeah. And she only has like one big scene in this movie.
It's memorable though.
But she leaves an impact. And then I think Lucas Hedges, the kid, is a breakout in every sense of the word. He very much reminded me of like a young Matt Damon, like from Good Will Hunting.
Was this his first movie?
No.
Okay.
He was actually one of the scout kids in Moonrise Kingdom.
Okay.
He wasn't the main one, but he was one of them, which kind of makes me want to go back and rewatch Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah, in my opinion, one of Wes Anderson's more accessible movies.
Oh, no, I agree. And apparently he was in Grand Budapest as well.
Lucas Hedges?
Yeah, apparently.
Really?
Which makes me want to rewatch that movie too.
Huh.
Either way I would want to rewatch Grand Budapest Hotel,
But yeah, some genuine talent in Manchester.
Yeah, just not your thing?
Just not my thing.
That's fair. I loved it. But, okay. What's your number 3?
Number 3 is surprisingly not an animated movie.
What?
It was released, or it was distributed by Disney.
Oh, I think I know what this one is then.
And this is Captain America: A Civil War, not directed by Ken Burns. Okay.
I should caveat this one is another one that almost made my list.
I have some things to say about this movie.
Yeah? I'll mostly let you take the floor on it. Since I know I kind of mostly did with Manchester, but...
It took me a couple of viewings to realize that this movie really was tightly structured. Because there are so many characters in this movie.
Yeah.
This easily could have been jumbled and messy and all over the place.
Yeah.
You know, the focus could have been lacking, and I was trying to convince myself the first couple of viewings that it wasn't. And it wasn't until after, I think, the second or third viewing that I realized, you know what? It's not.
Yeah.
Because what this movie does differently, as opposed to movies like The Amazing Spider-Man 2 or Batman v Superman, which also have a lot of characters.
Yeah. Or I mean to a much lesser extent, because for the most part, I still like this movie. To a lesser extent, Age of Ultron, honestly.
Yes.
I would say.
But all the characters in this movie revolve around one giant plot.
Yeah.
They're all integral to the core story.
Yeah.
There's not too many subplots in this movie.
Yeah, that's the thing that really surprised me. As I feel like with a film with this many characters, it would have easily felt overstuffed. This didn't quite hit that point for me, and I was very pleasantly surprised by that.
Some nerd ramblings here for you.
Yeah.
Something that I'm still not entirely on board with is, and I know a lot of you are going to disagree with me, the presence of Spider-Man himself.
Wait, really?
No, here's the thing.
Really?
Is that, yes, no, he is a good presence, and he is a very good Spider-Man. They handled the character well, but he comes out of nowhere. He really does.
Okay.
Really. And I'm sure, like, the entire population of planet Earth has already seen this movie, so I'll just say So, in the scene before Tony Stark meets Peter Parker, aka Spider-Man for the first time, he's talking to Scarlett Johansson's character about recruiting new team members.
Mm-hmm.
And with no build-up, no hints at it, he goes to this random neighborhood in Queens and recruits this kid who, yes, is a YouTube star, but there was no indication how he found out who Peter Parker is, where he lives. It just came out of nowhere, for me at least. And
That's
no one, I've talked to the most hardcore fans, no one has been able to explain to me what made Tony Stark think of him, how he found him. No one has provided any answers.
That's fair.
And it bugs me on a screenwriting level.
That's fair.
And it does attribute to that element of just throwing in a popular character.
Yeah.
Just because he's a popular character.
Mm-hmm.
Even though they did handle him very well.
Yeah, no, it says a lot that I'm actually excited for a Spider-Man movie again.
Mm-hmm.
But
I've been holding on to the glory days of Sam Raimi and Tobey Maguire, but Tom Holland captures the youthful energy of this character, and I'm excited to see where he takes it next.
Oh yeah, and
I'm sorry.
No, I didn't. I was wondering if you had anything.
Yeah, a couple more things, real quick.
Yeah, take all the time you need.
This movie ended the way I wanted Age of Ultron to end.
Me too, honestly. Me too.
I was honestly expecting the characters to be much more separated at the end of Age of Ultron than they ultimately were.
Yeah.
At the end of this movie, shit does go down, and you have all these characters basically separated from one another, and they are at odds against one another.
Oh, that's what I really liked about it. And honestly, the fact that it doesn't end with like a big apocalyptic event, and it's just a personal battle between two former friends.
Mm-hmm.
I thought that actually made it more involving.
Right.
Myself.
And I know some people have said, well, I mean, Tony Stark and Steve Rogers don't completely hate each other because, you know, Steve sends him that letter at the end saying that, oh, I'm still your friend, I want you to contact me. Here's the thing, though.
Mm-hmm.
Their team has basically been not ruined, but broken at this point.
Right.
And it's going to take some time to really rebuild everything that they've established.
Yeah.
Especially after what's happened in this movie.
Oh, God, yeah. And honestly, that's why I at least consider it the Empire Strikes Back of the Marvel franchise.
Mm-hmm. Looking at the team as a whole, yes.
Yeah. And because it's the one where, like, it's the darkest point before the dawn.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that about it. Honestly, it's probably my favorite Marvel movie. But I'll let you continue.
Final thoughts, because really I could just go on forever about Civil War. But I guess bottom line, when I look back at this movie, it does feel cohesive for the most part. It does feel, like I said, tightly structured. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it was very impressive how the Russo brothers were able to rein in all of these major superheroes and still make it seem like one fluid story.
Yeah, for sure. All right. My number 3. Another one you didn't see.
That could be the title of this video. Movies that Josh didn't see because he watches movies like The Gallows.
Like I said, you like one kind of movie, I like another kind of movie. It's fine.
Sharknado, The Fourth Awakening. Anyway, what's your number 3 spot?
Moonlight.
I really wanted to see this one.
Ooh, yeah, dude. It's rough, but it's one it's not the easiest viewing in the world. It's admittedly not the easiest viewing in the world.
Yeah.
Because it gets, I don't want to say it gets like extremely violent, but it gets very emotionally intense.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, most of you probably know the setup of Moonlight. It's very much kind of another 3-act film where that's divided into 3 chapters, almost sort of like Boyhood, sort of, because the first one is focused on this individual Chiron, a young black teen who is realizing that he might be gay. The first third focuses on him as a child, second third, him as an adolescent, and the final third, him as an adult. And all of them are kind of telling a story of him struggling to come to terms with his sexuality. And in an environment, at least in his case, that's very built upon masculinity. And so he doesn't feel like he fits in with anyone. And it's a film with really no easy answers to it, because in the first third there's even this plot where he has a father figure in Mahershala Ali's character who's a drug dealer, and the movie doesn't really focus too much on his drug dealing, because that's the interesting thing about this movie is it could have very easily felt like a very obvious social commentary piece, and in some regards it is a social commentary, but at heart this is just such a deeply personal story of a man coming to terms and learning that it's okay to be who he is. And so like this first third focuses on his relationship with this father figure, Mahershala Ali, who is kind of in a damned if you do, damned if you don't position, because he works as a drug dealer, and but as a means like out of desperation and just to make a living, and it's heartbreaking because this character realizes he wants to be a father figure to this kid, and that's the interesting thing is his character does genuinely care about this kid even though he is a drug dealer, but at the same time he recognizes that he is probably not the best role model for this young kid who, because of his position and his status, is probably setting
a bad example
of like just the whole masculinity kind of thing. And then the film also focuses on a relationship he has with his best friend, and I won't get too much into that, but it's a very sad film. It's a very sobering film, honestly.
Doesn't this movie also comment on society's perceptions of like masculinity?
Oh, very much so. Very much so. That's
like how a person should look and behave.
Very much so, and it particularly does that with like comments on like black masculinity, like how you would expect a young black man to behave.
Right.
And that's what I found so interesting about it. It's and here's the thing, it's still somehow hopeful at the end of it, even after just all the emotional difficulties in it. I won't really get into how, but it comes to just a very subtle, beautiful conclusion, I think, that I found very, very touching, very, very powerful.
And an appropriate ending, you would say?
Absolutely. I think it's the only ending the story could have had, myself.
Well, it sounds like we could use more movies like that then.
Oh God, yes. That's all right. What's your number 2 pick? I think I know what this one is.
Okay, number 2 is a movie that we already discussed, Zootopia.
Yep.
I have some more thoughts about that movie.
Yeah.
What's interesting to me is that this is probably the best movie Disney has made in the past few years, and yet it goes against what they're mainly known for. It doesn't have a princess, it's not a musical, it doesn't really have a fairy tale setting, at least not a conventional fairy tale setting. It's more related to something like Animal Farm, really.
Yeah, it kind of is.
It's filled with social commentary. Like, it comments on things that you would find on like an HBO special, like drugs, sexism,
I'm like,
racial prejudice.
Is this a Disney movie or The Wire?
But they never go too far. They
No.
make it accessible to children of all ages, and it's something that even if like you were like in your 90s, I bet you would still like really appreciate like the
Yeah.
messages of this movie.
No, yeah.
Another thing that I will say about it is that it seems like in recent years Disney is commenting on certain tropes that they're famous for.
Yeah.
Like there's one scene in this movie where the main character, Judy Hopps, who has always dreamed of being a police rabbit, she captures this criminal and she expects to be rewarded and celebrated for it, but instead she's brought into her boss's office and is chewed a new asshole because she left her position. That's not what she was supposed to do.
Right.
And they have this exchange where she's like, "Oh, I mean, I want to be a real copster. This is what I really want." And he's like, "Do you think I wanted you like on my police force? Life isn't some like fairy tale musical where you sing all of your problems away."
So let it go.
And Disney just commenting on like some of their like I said, some of their most famous tropes, and it was great.
Yeah, that's actually, I admit I never really thought of that. And just sort of showing that this world is more difficult and that not everything is easily resolved.
They could have gone too far though. I've seen some deleted scenes. The filmmakers of this movie said that overall they wanted people to like Zootopia as a society. Even though it has its problems,
Yeah.
they overall wanted people to like it. There's one deleted scene where Judy and Nick basically go to an animal version of a bar mitzvah where they're in this room full of bears. They're having a celebration because this young bear is becoming a man. He is rising to manhood, essentially. And his initiation is getting a shock collar because it's like the city's way of tagging these predators. And ultimately I'm glad they deleted that scene in particular because, like I said, there are ways they could have gone too far with this, and that to me is maybe going a little bit too far.
Everything else they had made the point fine.
Oh yeah, everything else, they made the point fine. And you could argue that some of it is in your face a little bit, but to be honest, in this day and age,
We kind of need that.
we kind of need that. And this movie, like we said earlier, it doesn't solve any problems, but it does invite you to at least try to make the world a better place.
Yeah. And I think so too.
Number 2.
This is another one that you already mentioned. It's Arrival.
Wow, really high on your list.
Oh, dude. This movie blew me away.
Although you are the science fiction guy.
Yeah, I'll just caveat this. With my personal taste, Arrival is like so completely my kind of movie. It's the kind of movie that I often gravitate towards so much. In a genre I gravitate towards so much, and this knocked my socks off. Pretty much everything you said, beautifully shot, wonderfully acted. Really, Amy Adams gives one of my favorite performances of the year. Just period. Not even in Best Actress, just one of my favorite performances of the year, period.
Do you think it's one of her best performances?
It might be my favorite performance of hers.
Really?
For me at least. And then what I loved about this movie, though, is just the way... I mean, I'm going to try to stay spoiler-free, but it's like, really, this is a very intelligent film in, like, the things it discusses, but one that also just has just this emotional rawness to it, which hit me very hard. I like movies that hit me hard emotionally. If it feels earned, I should say that.
It's the anti-Michael Bay.
Oh, very much. But like, yes, it very much is. But I mean, this movie has a twist, and I'll say it's the first movie twist in several years that genuinely caught me off guard.
It is one of those twists, though. Looking back, I can't believe I didn't get.
It makes you rethink the entire movie, and I'll just say this, it's a case of Denis Villeneuve playing with cinematic language very effectively, and just kind of reinforcing a theme this movie has that, in a sense, language shapes someone's worldview. But I'm going to keep it at that because anything else will be getting into spoilers. But yeah, it's one that just makes you rethink the entire movie. It's a mind bender, but one with a genuine emotional edge to it, and really just this is such. This is an optimistic movie, and what I mean by that is this isn't showing the world as it is, because as we've seen in these last few months, the world can be incredibly messy, but this is
unpredictable.
Oh, very much so. But this is a film. This is a film I think that's showing what humanity should aspire to be. Just one built around. I mean, regardless of what political view you are, or even what religious view you are, I think empathy is the key to life. And empathy, if we learn empathy with one another, I think that goes a long way. And I don't think this film is saying that's easy necessarily, but I think it's saying that is absolutely important for society to survive. And just, yeah, this movie shot beautifully. The score, oh my god, the score of it. This is one of the best sci-fi films I've seen in years, honestly. This movie blew me away.
Quick question for you, though.
Yeah.
Did you have any issues with some of the side characters?
A little bit.
Like Jeremy Renner or Forrest Whitaker?
I wasn't really thinking them. I was thinking like some of the much more minor characters.
Okay.
Like this one minor subplot that involves an explosion in the ship.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that was like the one moment I felt like the drama was crafted out of plot instead out of character. In an instance where I felt like plot was driving character instead of character driving plot. But the rest of the movie, to me, was so good. And really, no movie is perfect, is the thing. But the good stuff was more than enough to make up for that for me. For me, at least, it was.
Although you said there's no such thing as a perfect movie. I would disagree. I think I found it.
Ooh. Oh, are we getting into number one?
I think we are. Should we just combine this one?
Because I think... I'm trying to think. Hold on. I think our movie is the same one.
Right. Real quick, you had some honorable mentions. Do you mind if I go into just a
Sure.
Deadpool.
Okay.
Some of the jokes are a little bit outdated, but overall, it was a very fun time.
Yeah.
If there was ever an actor more perfectly suited to a comic book character, it would be Ryan Reynolds as Deadpool.
Yeah.
Perfect as that character. Finding Dory.
Ooh.
First 10 minutes or so felt a little bit too direct to DVD-ish for me.
Yeah.
As far as just reintroducing popular characters for like a minute or so, but once you get to the main thrust of the story, it does become, like many of Pixar's works, emotional.
Yeah.
One more honorable mention for me. I would say probably Magnificent Seven.
Ooh, that was all right. Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of westerns, like in general. I mean, I'll go out of my way to see like a Clint Eastwood western or a like if the Coen Brothers were to make another western. But anyway, this remake of Magnificent Seven, I thought was well crafted.
Yeah, I thought it was better than the reviews gave it credit for.
Yeah, I do. It definitely deserved better.
Yeah, I'll give a few of my honorable mentions.
Okay.
The Witch. Not much more to say aside from what you said.
Okay.
Swiss Army Man.
Oh, yeah.
Again, another movie that a lot of people are going to dislike, and I'm completely fine with that. But for me, at least, I found it weirdly engaging.
Okay.
And let's see. Finally, I'm gonna go Kubo as well.
Yeah.
Kubo was really good. Really, the animation alone made that movie, but everything else I thought was pretty involving. Yeah. So
good honorable mentions, and I apologize. I do have two more that I just thought of as far as honorable mentions go.
Yeah.
Real quick, The Jungle Book.
Ooh.
And X-Men Apocalypse.
What the hell, Josh?
Hey, I like what I like, and I thought X-Men Apocalypse was a good freaking movie.
I didn't hate it like a lot of people did. I thought it was meh. But the fact that you can put that on there and not Manchester by the Sea, I'm stunned, Josh. I'm stunned.
It at least speaks to my honesty.
I'm stunned. I am stunned.
Hey, give me Oscar Isaac and Power Rangers makeup any day of the week over Casey Affleck being depressed.
Don't you dare, Josh.
Anyway.
I actually have 2 more honorable mentions.
Okay.
The Edge of 17.
Damn it, I never saw that one.
It's a really good teen movie, and Haley Steinfeld's performance is wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
And then I feel like there was one other honorable mention. Civil War. Civil War.
Okay.
Everything you said.
Okay.
So I think I know what our number 1 film is.
Number 1 film of 2016 for both me and Brian is, ready?
Nine Lives. It's La La Land.
I just threw up a little bit in my mouth.
It's La La Land. Don't worry.
Okay. Because we have the same opinion, I will cut you some slack, but if you ever mention that horrid piece of shit in my residence...
I never saw 9 Lives. Don't worry. I'm giving you crap.
9 Lives gave me crap. Anyway, La La Land, yes.
Oh my god. Oh my word.
I don't even know where to begin, so I'll let you start.
This is a movie that was made for me personally.
Me too.
This is everything I love in a movie. It's a musical. It's
an original musical.
Well, yeah, and it's a throwback to like the classic musicals of the 40s and 50s.
Like Fred Astaire, Ginger Rogers, Gene Kelly.
Or like I saw a lot of people compare it to Jacques Demy. Yeah, which I think is reasonable. And then it's a movie about sort of people working to make it in film. And
in music.
Yeah, in film and in music. So sort of striving about the creative process. And so what if that's a little indulgent? That speaks to me personally because that's an experience I have.
Okay, yes, I have something to say about that. But
yeah,
I walked out of the theater with my fiance, and I turned to her and I was like, you know what? I think I found the best movie that I've seen in at least 5 years.
Oh, this is up there for me for sure.
And okay, some people are going to say, well, the reason that you liked it is because it dealt with things that you are personally interested in.
Yes,
but you know
yes,
what?
It does. So what?
It does, but at the same time, I don't agree with that because I think anyone who has a passion for something, who wants to go into a certain field, can relate to the struggles that this movie represents.
Because what I like about this movie is it doesn't sugarcoat those struggles.
Right.
It's that's what I really like about the contrasts in the two halves of this movie, is that it almost uses like the cinematography and just like the lighting and the editing of like a classic movie musical to sort of show, to represent the idealism of the characters. And then the second half that starts fading away when reality kind of starts setting in. It's sort of life without the conflict meshing up against the messiness of life. And I thought that was a brilliant way to do it myself, just aesthetically and thematically, and
I can relate so much to this movie.
Oh my god.
Okay, so Emma Stone's character wants to be an actress in Los Angeles, but in order to make money, she is a barista at a coffee shop.
I have that same experience. I'm a barista.
He does. I, for the time being, am working in food service. I work at a fast food place. And it's not a bad job by any means. Like, I'm not miserable. I'm not sad.
I'm not either.
It definitely has its perks. But here's the thing. It's not what we want to do with our lives. And ultimately, we are striving to get someplace better. We want to achieve our dreams. And this movie shows that in order to achieve those dreams, yeah, you're going to have to go through some tough shit. And it's not going to be easy. It's not going to be fun.
No.
But if it's something that you really want,
then it's worth it.
It's worth it, and you might damn well get it.
And like, yeah, it's like, if it's something you love, you may as well put yourself on the line.
Right.
Who cares what anyone else thinks? And I mean, that's something that I've been kind of trying to realize these last few years.
Right.
And myself, I don't know if I'm completely there, but I think this is an important thing to learn in any field in life, is sometimes you're going to have to inevitably put yourself on the line to get what you want, and that won't always work out.
Absolutely.
But if you enjoy it, then it's worth it.
There's one scene, I absolutely agree, but there is one scene that I've been discussing with a lot of people. Yeah. My personal favorite scene in the movie.
Oh.
And I'm honestly just going to have to spoil it, because I really do want to talk about this scene, because it is so relatable and important, especially to artists out there.
Yeah.
So, at one point in this movie, Emma Stone puts on a one-woman show.
Yeah.
And she houses it at this really crappy, rundown theater in, like, downtown Los Angeles. And opening night, almost no one comes,
Yeah.
There's barely anyone in the audience.
And there's a heckler in the audience. And she really feels like she's reached the bottom of the barrel. And there's a moment where she goes backstage and she overhears these guys saying, wow, what a horrible actress. She definitely shouldn't give up her day job. Yeah.
And the character at this point is pretty much ready to give up.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. Oh, well, what ultimately happens is she gets picked up by a talent agency, and she ends up getting the lead in a movie. Because here's the thing. Yes, not everyone is going to like your art.
Yeah.
You are going to have your critics. You're going to have people say that you are complete shit, that you shouldn't quit your day job, that you should stay where you are at right now because you're never going to get anywhere in life. But they don't represent everybody.
Yeah.
You could be noticed by, like, the biggest name in Hollywood or Broadway or whatever.
Yeah.
Really.
And if you enjoy doing it, who gives a shit what anyone else thinks?
Who gives a shit? Like I said, not everyone is gonna like you, but you might just impress the right people.
And and what you're saying, I mean, that's still something that I'm struggling to realize, but I recognize the validity of it. Mm-hmm. And I think I myself think that's a very poignant message. Mm-hmm. And I won't get into the ending, but I thought the way they ended this thing was just so beautiful and so poignant. And bittersweet at the same time. It almost brought tears to my eyes. And I never cry during movies. I never do. Just for whatever reason, I don't think I'm hardwired to not cry at movies for whatever reason.
I cried during this movie as well.
Yeah.
Not at the ending though. I actually cried during one of Emma Stone's audition scenes.
Oh, I know the one you're talking about.
That got me.
That floored me completely. Just, the acting in this movie is great because the chemistry between Ryan Gosling and Emma Stone is electric.
Very.
Is electric. Just their duet near the beginning of the movie, which is like something straight out of an Aaron Rodgers film.
You know what I was reminded of?
Is the most charming thing you will see all year.
You know what I was reminded of?
Yeah.
Obviously a different scenario and everything, but I recently watched White Christmas for the first time.
Oh, yeah.
And forgive me, I've completely forgotten the actor's name. Not Bing Crosby, but his partner in the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, Danny Kaye.
Oh,
Danny
yeah.
Kaye. Okay.
Yeah.
Danny Kaye has a musical number with one of the lead actresses in the movie, where they're basically dancing. They're dancing like on this pier with all these like docked boats, and it's a beautiful scene, and it's shot wide, and it's a long take of them just dancing together, and that's really what this scene between Gosling and Stone felt like to me.
No, yeah, like even right down to the aesthetics, because it was a long take. Mm-hmm. And then, dude, this movie was wonderful. I have no other words. I saw it again, held up just as much the second time, if not more.
It has.
This is the best movie musical of the 21st century. I am ready to call it that. I am ready to call it that. And it's funny because for the longest time I was saying the best movie musical of the last 20 years was South Park Bigger, Longer, and Uncut. That has been dethroned, and by a very wide margin. But the thing is, I'm genuinely trying to remember the last time I enjoyed a movie musical this much. Just period. Period. Singing in the Rain, maybe?
Maybe not this much, but there have been a few movie musicals the past decade or so that I really did enjoy, like Once and Sweeney Todd.
No, I mean, I'm saying those are good, but I'm just saying this much.
This much.
For me, I don't know if I've enjoyed a movie musical this much since Singing in the Rain.
And another thing that this movie does very well, it's not pure homage. It does have some progressive views.
Yeah.
It does have one foot in the past, but it's also very modern.
Yeah.
With its storytelling.
And that's what I think a lot of people are going to miss about it, because this thing is, let's face facts, I think this thing is going to win Best Picture at the Oscars.
Yeah.
But, and honestly, this is the first film in several years where it's also my favorite film of the year.
Yep.
But I feel like a lot of people are going to be saying, oh, this is just an homage movie, something like The Artist or something like that. And I thought it was much more than that.
It was way more than that.
I feel like that's basically just the first half of this movie. It feels like a very modern movie. It feels like a very Los Angeles movie.
And it does.
It knows its aesthetics very well. Mm-hmm. It knows how to use them intelligently. Mm-hmm. When to use them. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it genuinely has things to say.
And please, for the love of God, don't discard this as an homage movie.
That's what I'm saying. It's not. It's so much. I thought it was so much more than that.
Right.
I
haven't seen The Artist, but
yeah, The Artist is fine. It's not amazing. It's fine, but
is that more of an homage movie though?
I thought so.
Yeah. See, that's the thing.
But this I thought was much more than an homage movie.
Same here.
I thought this was sad, but it was joyous at the same time.
You know what I was rewatching the other day?
Yeah.
I was actually rewatching a little bit of Whiplash.
Oh my god!
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Made by the same filmmaker.
Damien Chazelle.
This guy is
a wonderkind.
A wonderkind. I think he's only like 30.
Yeah, 31. Dude.
It's insane. Is astounding.
Yeah.
He has such a kinetic energy to his style.
No, like I was talking about, I think we talked about this with Whiplash around the time it came out, and we were like, this feels like an auteur work.
It does.
Already. Mm-hmm. He just has, I feel like he has such a great understanding of his craft and how to use it. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're definitely, as far as the aesthetic, there is a difference between this and Whiplash.
Oh my god, there is a difference, yes.
There are times during Whiplash where I'm not going to go so far as to say it was like a horror movie, but man, was it gritty.
It was like a thriller.
It was like a thriller.
At points.
This movie, much more optimistic, much more joyful and sunny.
Yeah.
But yeah.
With a little bit of bittersweetness.
Such is life.
But, yeah.
And therein lies the majesty of La La Land. Best movie of 2016.
I'll tell you, when we disagree, one of us is wrong, but when we agree, we're both right.
Yeah. See La La Land. See it many times.
I've seen it twice. I already intend to go back.
Yeah, I definitely want to see it again.
Oh my god. Yeah. Just see La La Land.
Yes. Yeah, thank you again for joining us, guys. I know this probably went on a little longer than expected, but we just love talking about movies.
Oh, yeah.
It's our passion.
Yeah.
If you guys have any favorites, go ahead and shout them out. We'd love to hear them.
Shout them out in the comments. We'd love to know what you guys liked, because there's some stuff, as much as I gave you crap about not seeing everything, jokingly, of course, it's lighthearted, I'm teasing you.
No, it's not.
But there's even a couple of things I missed. So yeah.
Hey.
So shout them out.
I was going to say, you know what? You actually did go with me this year, or last year, to see most of the major horror releases.
Yeah, I did actually, yeah.
Anyway, hope to do this again next year if we get the chance.
Hell yeah.
It'd be a lot of fun.
Again, let us know if you agree with our picks or if you have any different picks, and we'd love to hear them. Peace out, guys.
Thank you.
See La La Land.
See it.